Hey guys, I am DM Zone. This is Gamers Oasis. I'm going to get into a few things. I have several topics here that I broke up into many videos, and I'm just going to kind of go over them real quickly. I have one for each one of the combat styles, the three from Chainmail that I predominantly use, and then the alternative combat system, and then I have one on how sort of all they work together, which one's better. And then I have like a video on like XP. So, how do I run my game? I run it with procedural, where you have movement, then you have your ranged melee, and then magic. I run pretty simple arcane divine as far as things go right now. And they're pretty cut and dry. They have their own origin. Some things are a little more powerful in each origin than they can be used by the other side to some degree. You'll see those when I talk more about that. If you watch my videos talking about spells, you'll see that where I talk about it in that video. I run the numerator or denominator type of setup, like I said, in my XP system. So if you have a one hit dice goblin fighting a second level fighter, normal XP would be X. Okay. In this case, it would be 1/2 because the goblin level is 1, the fighter level is 2, so it'd be 1/2. If it was a third level fighter, it'd be 1/3. Goblin level is 1, fire level is 1/3. If you happen to have a third level hero goblin, bad guy, big boss, let's say it's a third level fighting a first level fighter, then it would be 3/1. If it was a third level fighter and a third level boss goblin, that would be a 3/3, which is 1. You don't get 3 times the XP being first level, being in a fight with a third level goblin, but you do get full XP. And the reason why I work this is, let's say you're a party of first, second, and third level fighters, and you have 2 goblins that are first level and a goblin that is third level. You kill all 3 goblins, no one dies. The 2 first level characters, we'll just say there's 2 of them, they both get full XP, for the 2 low level 1 goblins, and they get 1 XP for killing the third goblin. So they really get 3 times X, whatever X might be, whatever the base goblin ability is. And probably the boss has a bonus XP, so they'll get that too. So 3X plus A. We'll just make it that, not to be too confusing with math. The second level fighter, they'll get 1/2, 1/2 for both the goblins, so they get X. Plus they'll get X for the goblin boss, because the goblin boss is third level and they are second. So it's a higher monster level than they are, so they get full XP. So they're going to get 2 plus A. 2X plus A. Okay, does that make sense? And the third level fighter, they get 1/3 for each one of the goblins that are level 1. So that's going to be like 2/3 of an XP of a goblin. And then they'll get the goblin boss plus A. And that's essentially how it works. And if you have 4th level fighter, they would get 1/4 the XP for each one of the goblins, or 1/2 for having 2. And then they would get 3/4 of the goblin boss plus A. And that would basically be how that works. And that's how I do XP. Combat, I use weapon class. I feel like weapon class is extremely important because it is the deciding thing at first level between a cleric and a fighter. That and some obvious weapon choice. So a cleric can use maces, which is very good against certain classes, but against other things like leather, where on the man-to-man combat chart, which is also what I use, they need a 9 versus leather and shield, where they need an 8 versus plate mail. Inverse that, if you had a 2-handed sword, let me just look at that real quick. Leather and shield, they need a 6, and they need a 7 versus the plate mail and shield. Now, if you do something like a dagger, daggers need an 8 versus leather and shield, and they need a 12 for the plate mail. There's also some like brackets there because basically if you knock a person prone or you have them helpless, you can stab them with a dagger and coup de grace them because you're essentially pushing between the plates and it's a lower to hit essentially. So there is that too. There are reasons for this. I don't necessarily run the riposte and the bonus extra counterattacks and that type of stuff. I do shift it every 3 levels for a fighter to be able to get an additional attack. I do shift it every 4 levels for a cleric and 5 levels for a magic user. I feel like by the time you are a 10th level magic user and the fighter has 3 attacks and is working on its 4th, I feel like it starts to really show itself. I don't have an end to that. I just keep going. I feel like there's no reason we're not getting that high where we're doing more than the attack around a second. But I feel like it could be there eventually. Damage, I do the variant dice. So daggers do D4s, two-handed swords do 2d6. Maces do a d6. I do the same thing with magic. Magic does different dice. I use what I call lyrical magic. I'm still going to talk about that in another video. I haven't got to that. But that's for elves and fae, really. It's basically music that is magic. And they don't require spell books, but they can't use scrolls. They can read a scroll if they have the song for read magic. And there's actually a need for that. But they'd have to have that as one of their spells. Otherwise, they can't even mess with anything magic users do. Magic users get read magic for free. I give them a free spell. And then basically they get a spell. And that's it. And then the rest they find. And I feel like that's a good way to go. They want options, they have to earn it. There's lots of ways to earn it. I have them available in my world. I do tend to avoid certain spells like levitation and flight and this type of stuff. I use encumbrance, but I have an additional spell, which I haven't used in my solo game because it's supposed to be closer to original Dungeons & Dragons. But it's essentially a way to transport items inside a backpack for a short duration, a day, essentially. And at the end of that time, they have to either take it out and recast it, or it will just expel itself onto the ground. And I feel like that is really good. They don't really have a lot of control. It's sort of fire and forget. But they cast it in the same item, and it solves itself. I have things like that. I use, when you get to 0, you are knocked unconscious. If you are left to your own things, you will die. Players, I give them a really terrible constitution check. It's basically around half of what their con is. If they make it, then they come back without any assistance. Like 12 to 24 hours later. So D12 plus 11 essentially, or 12, whatever it is. So 13 to 24 hours later they come back. And I feel like that's a really good way of going. You regenerate a hit point a day unless you are inside an area being treated, like in a hospital. If you're inside an inn recovering and you don't have anyone tending to your wounds, I allow you to make a con check to regain an extra hit point because you're getting bed rest. If you are getting treated, then you get back 2. If you're in a hospital and you're being treated, I give you a con check to get back 3. Otherwise you get 2. So yeah, that's the way I I work that. Um, yeah, it gives people back a lot. I use 10-minute spells for heals, so heals aren't done in combat. Um, I favor running away from fights versus just jumping into them and dying. It's pretty. No one wants to fight. Monsters or good guys don't want to fight. Um, and then let's see here. What else do I have? I try and run a more social aspect of the game. Henchmen um, essentially count as 1/2 XP. So if you have 2 henchmen in the party of 4, that's 5 people. The XP gets divided 5 ways. If you are trying to do that with the goblins and everything, like I said earlier, it gets a little bit complicated. But essentially, you take whatever that total is and you divide it by 5, and then that's what the actual party member gets. If you have a cook in the party, I give bonuses to like having prepared food and this type of stuff. If you have porters carrying things out, you can obviously carry more. A torchbearer is important so that the Avengers can have their hands free. I have them treated as non-combatants. However, if it comes down to a situation and they show themselves to be heroic, they end up being the first place that some parties might choose to draw people to join their group. And I feel like that really built it. I have a big, if you watch my solo campaign, you'll see there's some videos where I talk about the origin stories of this type of stuff. I have a big thing about how you're socially interacting with the people around you, what your personalities are. It's nowhere near original Dungeons and Dragons. It's my own thing. I feel like it's really good. Not going to talk about it in this video, but it does affect combat. It affects the decisions that are made. Anyways, guys, this was a sort of video off the top of my head trying to talk about how I do combat. If I missed anything, ask in the comments down below. I'll respond there. Hope you guys liked it. See you guys in the next one, and keep rolling those dice.